So this is my second spring growing the Stropharia mushrooms, Stropharia rugosoannulata wine caps. And we're getting our first main flush of the spring here. And of course they're called wine caps because it has that burgundy color when they first come up. And they get more paler with age. They like to grow around plants, I've noticed. As you can see, they come up right around the roots, even though it's not a mycorrhizal fungus, which means that it has a relationship with the plant roots. Stropharia mushrooms do not. They are decomposers, so they just consume dead matter. They have no relationship with the plants. A lot of people will tell you that they are mycorrhizal and they have a relationship with the plants, but they do not. But they tend to like to grow around near plants. That's because plant roots will suck up nutrients and all that in it, and in the process of that, things end up dying underground that are living, which provides the mushroom to get the nutrients that it needs from that decaying matter that's growing along the plant roots. And Stropharia rugosoannulata, annulata comes from our word annulus comes from the Latin word annulata, which means annulus, which after the cap opens and matures, you'll get these not quite a full ring, but there'll be somewhat of a ring around the stem. And yeah, so I'm gonna get out my mushroom knife and actually cut these properly instead of pulling them out like I did for this one. Just like with a plant, instead of pulling a whole plant out of the ground when you're harvesting it, if it's not a root vegetable, I tend to like to just cut off the top, so that way the roots can stay in the ground and create those pathways for worms and for new roots in the future. And the same goes with the mycelium and which I guess you would call mushroom roots, but it's actually not mushroom roots. The mycelium is actually the organism, the actual species that we're calling Stropharia rugosoannulata. And this mushroom that we relate to with the species is just the fruiting body of the organism. That's all it is. Just like an apple on a tree. These are all just apples of the mycelium, which this right here is the organism, and this is just the fruiting body, to be clear. So by picking the fruiting body, I'm not causing any harm to the organism. I'm actually helping it. But, like I said, by cutting it off right there, I'm doing more good than harm by letting the stem of the old fruiting body stay in place where it originally came up and rot and create those pathways for new organisms to come in and take its place. And in this case, it would be the same fruiting body, the Stropharia. And for these wine cap mushrooms, the cap part is mostly what you eat. Unless you get younger ones, kind of like these ones, you can eat the whole thing. But once they get like this and that, they tend to get a little tough. So we usually just cook the caps up. And you can see how they stay buried. I mean, they're like half partially buried, so you got to be fast. If you wait around for just one day, you're gonna miss out. Looks like we got either a slime mold or some insect eggs. That's another thing you have to worry about, is other fungi trying to, compete in the same area. You don't want to get, it's hard, it's easy, but growing wine caps, but at the same time it is hard because since I'm growing them directly on the ground with oak and other hardwood chips, you have to worry about the colonization of other fungi, in the same area, whether it's introduced or native. You have that risk. Since I'm bringing in wood chips from a different area, they could already be contaminated with the spores of other fungi that, want to compete and want to grow here as well. So you have to keep it clean. And if anybody is interested in growing your own edible mushrooms outdoors year-round, you can very easily do it. Even if you live in an area or a neighborhood where you have like the housing community thing, I forget what it's, where they all check in on you, you can still have wood chips around your yard and you can water them and keep them moist. Nobody's going to know that you're growing mushrooms there. Only you'll know. No one will ever know. It could be our little secret. What's good? The homeowners community club type deal. Association. There we go. Homeowners association. I mean, you may not be able to have chickens, but you can still grow your own mushrooms outdoors. At the least. And like I said, you got to be fast. The bugs like them. But that's fine. That just means you're doing something right. Oh, and while we're here, so if you look at these mushrooms that I just picked just now from my second flush. Ooh, there's a little caterpillar there. I'm going to take the most mature mushroom, which would be this darker one. How the gills are already dark. On some of these, the gills haven't even opened yet. But you can see how this one, they're open and they're getting dark towards the, the ridge of the stem there at the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut off this cap and we're going to bring it to our new wood chip pile just over yonder. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this cap and we're going to set it down on our new wood chip pile and just leave it there and water it every day. And these spores, as this mushroom matures even more, even though I cut the stem, it will still mature and those spores will drop onto the wood chips and it will create mycelium once it mates with a similar structure of mycelium DNA, and they will bond and create the filament threads that we see here that grow into the wood chips, its substrate, and it will create another fruiting body like this. And that's how you spread these around from patch to patch. Super easy.